Hey, all you NHL fans, remember those fun nights at the Fortress? And from the very start, Cameron Hughes has been there, dancing, throwing shirts, having fun. Now he's sharing his stories with all of us on the pages of a brand new book. Canadian Cameron Hughes has performed all over the world. He's fired up crowds at Stanley Cup Finals, NBA Finals, U.S. Open, rugby, NFL games. He's performed at over 1,500 events, entertaining 30 million fans across the globe. He's appeared on national talk shows, visited hospitals. Now all those stories are chronicled in a new book called King of Cheer.
I've had all these stories. I've been writing a journal off and on for years. I would, and then I put it away, and I was always like, wait a minute, like there's a thread here of some kind. I didn't know what it looked like, and I realized it wasn't like 10 paragraphs, 10 chapters where you just go, and this happened, and this happened. It was more a collection of stories from, the highs and lows, starting out, and then, all the different things have happened, from the NBA Finals to Vegas to the U.S. Open. So then it's just more like just those standalone stories. And then there's the minor league games. I've got like crazy experiences going to Europe doing rugby, and they're like looking at me like, we're not buying into this. And I'm like, I better find a way. So it's like coming on a big road trip with me. You know what I mean?
You started entertaining classmates way back as far as he can remember. He was even Lenny the Lynx at minor league baseball games in Ottawa.
That's been my whole thing, try to be like that first night when I got started where I didn't plan on being there and getting the crowd going. I want to just be that spark that just says, come on, guys. Come on, ladies. Come on, everyone. Let's go, And 26 years I've tried to have that in me.
His career really took off by happenstance. At a hockey game in Winnipeg back in 1994, the Senators were playing the Jets.
Yeah, my buddy asked me to go to the game, and third period, nobody was cheering. The Senators were a new team. They were horrible team. Fans were just like, it was minus 30 out and 20 feet of snow. So I'm like, we got to do something. My buddy's like, no, you don't. And I got up, and the 8 minutes to go, the song was We Are Family, and I'm on my seat, and I'm dancing, and I'm going crazy, and everyone's like, he's not going to stop. And I sat back down in my seat, and the crowd had this buzz. And I tell people, I do a lot of speaking events, and stories on airplanes, and whoever I meet, the reason I've had this accidental career performing around the world is because what I did next. We all have ideas, things we want to do. I went to the aisle on the next whistle. They played a big dance song, and there's actual footage of me dancing up and down the aisle. I had no idea what I was doing. And they came up to me afterward, and they were like, do you want to come back? And I'm like, yeah, to do what?
He did go back over and over again. He's performed 52 times in Las Vegas at Golden Knights games. He's become a fan favorite, and really this is one of his favorite stops. The first time you came to Vegas, what was that like? I mean, like I mentioned to you, I thought it was like, who's this guy in the stands? Just some guy that's having fun. And you came back over and over, and people just gravitated. They love you in Vegas.
Oh, I love Vegas. I love being a part of it. I did the preseason game, and it was a fun hit. And we waited like later in the game because there were so many different elements. And then I came for the first ever game, and this is the shirt. I still have it. I still have one shirt left. And I'll never forget, Chris, obviously Vegas had been going through a horrible time and was healing and trying to figure out what it looked like. And nobody really knew, what to do. And I'll never forget it. Wish me luck getting through this story. But I remember walking into the arena, around 5:30 that day on October 10th, thinking like, what do I do here? Like, I'm supposed to get the crowd going. And this horrible tragedy happened. And I walked out, I turned around, and this fan had come really early. And he comes over to me, he grabs me on the arm, and he goes, we need you tonight. I get goosebumps. And I looked at him, and I hugged him, and I was just like, thank you. I needed to hear that. Because it was this process of healing, of coming together as a community, and I was so grateful to be this tiny part of that. And, 3 years later, I'm making, videos for people's bat mitzvahs and birthday parties. And it's crazy. It's been so great to be part of the Vegas community.
Your last gig prior to the pandemic was Vegas.
It was Vegas. Oh, it was. And were we loud that night? That's the longest I've ever waited for a T-shirt reveal.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that was I think it was a Tuesday night against the Devils. They won 3-0. Special tribute to the Hulk, John Barada, and I remember leaving that game for some reason feeling extra grateful for that. You know, I've left a lot of arenas. You're tired. You're giving everything you have, and I was giving the fist bumps to the security, the ushers, and then I walked by Jonathan Marchessault, and he kind of grabs me and he's like, you brought it tonight. And I was like, I looked at him, I'm kind of like, oh, you brought it tonight. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? And it was like, there are some games that we all know that have that extra thing that it's hard to describe. It's hard to, you know what I mean? There's games that are just like, it kind of comes together. And it's so fun to be part of that, you know?
This pandemic has shut down the King of Cheer. From his six-figure job to nothing. No fans, no cheering, no Hughes.
Yeah, it's been interesting. You know, I don't know how many events were wiped out, but it was a lot. It was my entire, career for 7 months of, gigs that were booked. And I've just tried to, do Zoom meetings for people. But ultimately, I'm really proud that, I did this. And yeah. I could tell you stories of all the people that helped me do it, from the designers, the editors, and everyone had their own stuff that they were going through, But I just knew I had to finish it, I could see it. I could see it being done. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done, and it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And I'm grateful for all the support along the way, and I can't wait for people to have a read and to see what they think.
His book is divided into two parts. His early life, where he talks about growing up in Victoria, British Columbia. His mom was his biggest supporter, but she never got to see her son's dream come true.
Yeah, my mother was diagnosed at 15 with breast cancer. I can still remember it, sitting on the couch, her telling my sister and I that she'd been diagnosed and what it looked like. My parents were divorced, and she was like, I'm going to beat this, and don't worry, and just go on. And it was like, what do you mean go on? Like, how could you, Like, my whole thing was like, my biggest cheerleader is in the fight of her life. I need to do whatever I can to protect her. And I went in like I was just like full on whatever I could do. And my mom was a nurse, and she started a nursing program. So she was like all about heart and connecting, and she was just like so full of life. And she passed away 2 years later after that initial diagnosis. And my whole thing has been, as hard as it was and hard as it has been, I wanted her story to be my fuel, not just like, oh, poor me, And yeah, it's not great. Of course it's not. But I had to turn it into something, and at that time in high school, I decided to cheer everyone on instead, and I kind of flipped the switch.
The 49-year-old also lost his father 5 years ago, so neither one of his parents are around to see their son's career blossom. But Cameron, through it all, now more than ever, he says, might be the best time to smile and cheer.
Yeah, right now more than ever, we all know it. We all need to, my whole thing is cheer each other on, And what does that look like? I don't think it's just liking someone's post. I think it's like reading between the lines that everyone's been going through a roller coaster. Pick up the phone, call people, let them know you're thinking about them, and, make them a funny video. I've done a lot of things a lot of things. I should almost put a promo together of just the videos I've done for people. And it's so fun. It's the cheer you give is the cheer you get, right?
Yeah.
And we all need to remember that, and it becomes contagious. And I think it's like going to a sport event where you start to cheer in section 108 and then 109, and then suddenly the whole stadium's cheering. And I posted this recently because I know we've been going through a crazy time. I'm like, when I run down the stairs, I turn around and look at your faces. I see your hearts and your smiles. That's all. So whatever beliefs you have, whatever this and that, it doesn't matter to me. I want you to come with me for a ride. Let's go. That's what matters, that connection.
Someday Hughes will be back in the stands. He'll be back in Las Vegas cheering because the king never gives up his throne.
I've met fans from Vegas to, Brandon, Manitoba, to Europe, to all over. It's that connection, And I was meeting fans in Vegas. I'm like, oh, my God, you're friends with so-and-so and so-and-so. Oh, you've been friends with them for years? They're like, no, we just met through the hockey team. And you're like, what? It's amazing how it brings us together.
All right, I'd like to thank Cameron for that. Staying with the Knights.